All right, here we go. Welcome to the internet. Now, welcome to the live stream. I had a great time doing this the other day, on on Facebook, looking at all of my shocking Facebook posts from throughout the years, and embarrassing, myself and everyone watching, reading all of that. And I thought, well, this would be a great way to stream music and kind of talk about the creative process, which I haven't found another way to do. I've always wanted to share the stories about how these demos came to be, for posterity's sake, and you know, because I enjoy talking about the creative process, and this is definitely a more appropriate venue to do it than talking off the ears of my friends, or worse, girlfriends. Um, when it's not really all that relevant to them, unless they're fans. Unless they're like, "Wow, I love this. Tell me more." And I've been able to tell stories that way, but you know, I thought this would be a really great chance to sit down with each of the whole albums, quote unquote. I'll talk more about the quote unquote, but to sit down with each of those and just have it all out there. So let's see. Let's see where all we need to post this stuff. Oh boy, Dana Dentata's coming up with her Pantychrist album. Super excited about that. There's a little bit of a storm outside. I'm pretty confident that it's not going to interfere with what we're doing here. But anyway, so we're gonna get started with that. I just had to post the link to a couple places. Um, it's about 40 minutes long. Just regular old regular boring album length. 40 minutes. It's pretty good. It's not too much. Not too little, but I'm gonna start with the Despair Code today, which I finished, or at least moved to its completed state and abandoned work on it essentially in 2018, and then I lost all of the files, so I can't work on it anymore unless I completely start over from scratch. Now the first demo album, I have all of those files, but all of those ideas are so far in the distant past. I really have no interest in digging all that back up. So anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and start playing this here. Let's see. Here we go. I started work on the Despair Code, which I didn't know. Actually, no, I knew I knew it was going to be called that from pretty early on. And the first thing I guess I'll talk about is that title, the despair code. This is actually an idea on the internet. And the general idea is, it's kind of like a... One second. There we go. All right. The despair code is like this catch-all term for all of the different things in our environment, in our Western society, that kind of act to keep us on this low vibrational level, in despair, as it were. So this is the title track. So, everything you hear was done using one of these. And what is this? I'm glad you asked. It's just an iPhone. Seriously, I recorded everything using iPhone and an iRig. iRig regular for that goes into the auxiliary for Operation Northwoods, and then for this I got an iRig HD. And since then I've actually upgraded. It's an Apogee Jam Plus, but this is just an I/O for your guitar. Everything else in here, besides the guitar, is actually all GarageBand instruments. GarageBand, the app. So these drums, the bass guitar, the organ, none of that's real. Some moments like this, you can really tell because it feels a little stilted, but for the most part, I'm really impressed with some of the stuff that just comes with GarageBand. So now we get this little breakdown here is important. I want you to lock that breakdown in your mind. La da 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 da. Okay, because that is that's a motif that occurs several times throughout the album. We're going to hear it in track 5, and we're going to hear it in track 12, and I think maybe 11. And that is the despair motif. The whole kind of concept here is this character who, you know, kind of becomes absorbed into the despair code thing. Who through his kind of toxic and self-centered and you know, very hurt feelings based perception of the world becomes this, you know, thing, and then I'm not sure what happens at the end, but I think he might suicide. influences for the rnttnzr project are really kind of emo punk, is what I call it, which is kind of is post-hard, somewhere between post-hardcore and pop punk. That's kind of in the and most of the time kind of a darker thing, thus emo punk. Not goth punk, because it doesn't have gothic aesthetics at all. So and it's more, you know, kind of I don't know, I guess trying to dignify mall emo, like My Chemical Romance. I don't know. One element that's important instrumentally to rnttnzr, as far as how the instruments are played, specifically the guitar, is the duality between two different guitar parts. So over here you might have a rhythm part playing, and over here you have a kind of a more lead part playing. The struggle was finding a way to do that in a way that fills up the soundscape to where it doesn't sound too empty. And since I'm doing all the guitar parts, I'm not really a lead guitarist. The solos aren't always crazy technical, but I always wanted to make sure at least that you got the idea, especially so that if I ever realized these projects in a larger way, I could give that material to a real great, you know, lead guitarist and tell him, what's your spin on this, you know, and fully realize it. Anyway, that song was called Shadow of the Valley, and it's just kind of about classism or class warfare, really. Because I since this really generally the idea of this album is kind of mental health. I couldn't possibly talk about that subject without addressing the environmental influences on mental health, because it doesn't all come from within, as far as, because this story is about one person, but it's also about all of us, and one thing that affects many people as far as quality of life, quality of health, mental health. Environmental factors are huge. A lot of people will try to downplay the importance of growing up in poverty or in violence or without a parent, or all of these certain things that can really influence your trajectory in life. And I wanted to pay respect to that, as well as all the other things I'm talking about. Like this song right now, Bicycle, which is finally a nice upbeat song in, I want to say A major. Sometimes we have to have fun. It can't all be super fast, dark punk music or emo punk. But this song is about kind of the growing up to realize that you miss the way things were and you kind of want things to change and stay the same. And then this kind of leftovers from childhood and teenagehood. And oh, if I could just go back and fix that, then everybody would like me today. It wouldn't be like it is today, where nobody wants to fuck with me. That was kind of the idea. The lyrics that I wrote had to do with, I want to say one line is, I cannot explain myself, so I blame somebody else. And that's just kind of wraps up the whole vibe of his perspective where it concerns this song. And we have another solo. Deliberately playing two guitars playing the same thing in a mono channel, and then kind of going in opposite directions doing this, and then coming back together or then just the one guitar and then back together at the very end. But yeah, I believe this is an A major. The way I structured this album before I really started recording songs, and really when I had only written one song fully, which was the ending, Finn, I had this structure, and I wanted to take an album from, in terms of keys, from I think it's B flat major, or it might be E flat major. No, it's B flat major to E flat, or not major, minor, to E flat minor, which is where Finn ends up. And Finn actually is the guitar part for it is actually a B flat octave over E flat. So I thought, what if I split that apart and I have this journey that takes it from this place, you know, with some detours. You get one in A major, one in C major. You get some happy spots. You know, changing from relative keys between songs, changing from major to minor mid song, which happens in I think in this song. Really heavily inspired by the Smashing Pumpkins, one of my favorite bands. So the layers on top of layers on top of layers, that's where that comes from. This song is called Genie. I named it that. It wasn't originally about this chick, but I did name it Genie, which is my nickname for a girlfriend at the time. I named it that because I think she called while I was in the middle of recording, and when we finished the phone call and I went back to it, I just thought, this will be her song. even though from a autobiographical perspective, you know, if any of this is autobiographical, I don't know. If any of it deals with stuff that, in a literal way, that I've been through before, it's all kind of before that. But as far as album structure, we're getting close to the end of Act 1, which all kind of deals with kind of the past. It's pretty much Act 1 is the past, and how rnttnzr sees his past and how that influences the trajectory of his life in the album. There's some kind of cool synths right here. Riff da 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 plays in two different ways in this song. But anyway, I did try to do a lot of synth stuff here on Despair Code, trying to find, and I'm still looking for it. I'm trying to find this balance, this interesting sound that's somewhere between, you know, there's some 9 Inch Nails in there that I haven't really explored much yet. There's obviously the punk thing and the metal thing, the J-rock thing, because there's a little bit of Crush 40, particularly, is kind of like an Americanized J-rock band that I listened to as a kid, and informed a lot of my rock and roll sensibilities. So that shows in, especially in Operation Northwoods, but somewhat in this one too. So here we've got Orphan. And if you'll listen to this motif, it's that same motif from track 1 that I told you to remember. Here it is. It'll show up again, also played on the piano in Finn, and I think it is in one other place as well, maybe on Only Child, which is kind of the sister song to Orphan. Orphan kind of ends Act 1, and Only Child kind of ushers in the grand finale. The 3-act structure, as well as moving from key to key in a way that related to one another, are both integral to how this album is built musically. And that Black Sabbath riffing right there. This image I've got on the stream actually is the album cover right there. I don't know if it's got a logo or anything like that on it, but this is the front windshield of a car. Obviously it's broken, so that image just really summed everything up. And I took this picture a long time after I had already said this is as far as I'm gonna go for this album. So the bass really stands out as being synthesized for all of the rnttnzr stuff that's on tape so far. It took me forever to get a bass guitar, and these work with bass guitars, and there's, you know, bass guitar amp stuff that's built into GarageBand, but also I have another program, another app, which has a lot of much better amp modeling than is built into GarageBand. Still, what's built into GarageBand, I mean, all of this came from that. So, I mean, there's just so much you can do with these tools that fit in your pocket. It's amazing. Next song was the second one, written and recorded. Took a long time to record it, went through a lot of different versions. This song is called By Your Love. And just like song 6 of one of my favorite albums of all time, The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, just like song 6 on that album, this is song 6 here, and it's a sad song in C major, just as that song is. And it's somewhat inspired by that song, I Don't Love You, but more so by Billy Joel and kind of soft rock, you know, melancholy love sensibilities like that. This was, well, almost all of this was recorded before I had started experimenting with more serious, I won't say advanced, because it's not advanced, but serious, you know, mixing techniques, compression and stuff like that. And this is one of the songs that suffers the most for it. This chorus does sound kind of crunched and cramped together. Kind of an incel type of song a little bit, which is sort of the point. You know, the character does not have a redemption arc. This is his fall. You know, the despair code is his fall. And this song particularly is about kind of bitterness about not being able to attain the person that you want. And in poor old rnttnzr's case, she's just not a great chick. That's why it's called By Your Love, because that's the only way he could get it. And rnttnzr's some broke punk rocker, right? So. really buried in the mix, but there's kind of an anti-solo going on in there that's not really melodic and isn't really in C major. I don't think. I don't know what the hell I'm doing there. Maybe playing the relative minor or something like that. It was an improvised solo. I think I only re-recorded it once. So, we've been so low, so here's a little bit of humor.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error...
Right. So we're continuing with that whole not getting the girl. Poor rnttnzr over and over again, just not getting the girl. Either not getting the girl or hung up over a girl from before, in the case of, Bicycle and that whole first act. But this song is called Button, and it's just a very basic, simple, stripped down pop rock song with a couple of synthy moments. And that's it. That's all there is to it. If anything, maybe the Gerard Way solo album inspired this a little bit. That mix of, that synthy mix that turns out to, turns into Britpop. Adding that percussive ring. It's really repetitive, almost grating. But before I had that in there, this part just felt really, really barren. And I put that one thing in. Sometimes it's one little element that you add that just makes everything come to life and feel more together and make more sense. Falling apart at the end, like, I don't know, things are about to get bad again. Because this isn't a happy story, so we can't stay in that happy place too long, I guess. This next song, believe it or not, was inspired by Mozart. is a little ham-fisted on the Despair Code in this album. In track 1 where it shows up, in this track, this might be the last time it shows up, I kind of forget. But it's a little ham-fisted, kind of on purpose, because really between you know, the thematic elements, like you know, kind of the drug lifestyle and mental health and you know, loss and stuff like that. I really, some moments needed to be super dramatic in a serious way, and some I thought I can get away with some hamminess. It's gonna kind of balance out the super serious. Oh, like you listen to this organ and it's still very, you know, gritty and dark, but kind of in the twirling mustache type of way. You know, more so than like a serious, edgy villain type of way. This song does switch between 4/4 and 3/4 time. There's quite a few songs, including the next one, where there's kind of a, you know, a really true A and B. There's that. Yeah. Song was called Nitemare, and it's just about that. Nightmares, panic attacks, the really gritty, aggressive, episodic side of mental health and a psychological breakdown, and just kind of a spiral in your life that really, you know, it's not the subtle parts. It's this is an episode. I'm having an episode. This is the nightmare. This song is called Pissinthawind, all one word, and it's just basic riff-driven, you know, punk rock, or, you know, it's super melodic. You could really call it pop punk, but it's really riff-driven. I don't write a lot of riffs because I'm not a lead guitarist, probably, but that's what I was looking for with this song. And there's a turnaround, and it starts playing the riff in a different way. Here it's about to go from a super melodic major to a real gritty, dissonant minor key, and it's going to play the riff in a minor key. It's just transposed into a minor key, but the idea here is, in the midst of this, you know, fight for freedom, which is Pissinthawind, is kind of is the last gasp of the freedom-loving rebel side of rnttnzr. And whereas before we couldn't stick around in that happy stuff for too long, we might get 2 songs and then get pulled back in. In this case, despair interrupts in the middle of the song. And then the last chord of that is the first chord of this next song. This song, Ivy, which is in C sharp minor, or D flat minor, it doesn't matter. Well, it matters depending. But anyway, it's called Ivy, spelled I-V-Y, because that's the name of the girl that it's about, right? But this girl who uses drugs intravenously. That's kind of that's the double entendre here is IV, like, you know, something you're hooked up to. And it's not a super developed song. This is one of those ones that I would have loved to have gone back to because it's kind of overlong. It actually used to be longer. And there's parts like this very short second verse that goes right into another chorus that are pretty underdeveloped, and the guitar parts are just really basic, you know, something you would play on an acoustic guitar, really, just mostly chords. There's soloing, but there's no solo. And I got a note while I was developing this song, hey, you need more, you know, solo stuff going on in here. But I never went back to it to really figure it out. I got stuck on this, and I've always wondered if maybe just a whole other version, just like with By Your Love, where there was a fast version, kind of inspired by the All American Rejects. What's some songs by them? Like, you know, Believe or Real World, or some of those up-tempo songs from When the World Comes Down. But anyway, if I had done a whole other version of this, would it have turned out better? Otherwise, just a really... That right there, da 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 da. I mean, that's pretty much the heaviest, kind of most metal part on the whole album. The rnttnzr version of metal is always going to be more inspired by Black Sabbath than by, Metallica or Slayer or anything like that. Or Megadeth, you know. It's always going to be more. That's where the riffs really come out for rnttnzr, is that Tony Iommi, who was one of my favorite guitarists, you know, and the influence from him. So there was a moment of it right here, and that's also something you might find in more chugga metal. Here's some of the limits of the garage band samples. Kind of the limits rear their ugly heads. You know, the piano doesn't sound phenomenal, but neither does the part I wrote for it. Such an amalgamation of things that I imagined for this song, Only Child, which is the penultimate and really the climax as far as peaking. peak violence, peak speed, all that. Just like at the end of Operation Northwoods in No Funeral for a Cowboy, where it goes through kind of a montage of the different styles of songs that we've seen throughout the journey, this kind of does the same thing a little bit. At least that was the original idea. This is Only Child and Ivy are the two kind of the babies that didn't quite hatch right. This song also goes into 3/4 time for the final portion of it here in a second. But I mean, essentially, this is just more build up to agony in the final decision, not knowing what he's gonna do. Kind of snaps. Again, we've changed time signatures, but we're going to be playing basically the same stuff. You know, that womp 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 womp. We do that again. The piano is just a little different. It's just all tumbling and avalanching into him just kind of giving up, because that's essentially what happens. You know, when you have a really kind of self, not necessarily ego-centered, but maybe even just id-centered, but either way, self-centered kind of sad person, you know, this is the spiral that it goes into. You know, there's plenty of movies about it. I wanted to make an album about it, and he really does not come out okay. It's debatable and open to interpretation as to whether or not rnttnzr lives through this story. Finn. This is the last song. You know, this is originally this was written at the very end of a relationship that me and the girl thought we wanted to make it work, but it had been years. You know, we had been together for years, and it was not the right thing. So I mean that's good. But as far as it's relevant to this story, it's just kind of coming to terms with the exception of things never getting better. We're about to hear that that despair code. Na 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 na. Underneath all this Evanescence type you know, piano stuff going on, this atmosphere. That's kind of it. I mean, when you have someone with the mindset like rnttnzr, this is the direction that it goes. You know, it doesn't take you anywhere, and that's where the despair code leads to. Is just what it says. And this is where he, you know, rages for a second, and it builds one last time here. Dreamlike for just a second. Is it gonna get better? That's it. That's the despair code. I'll keep talking a little bit about it until we hit the 1 hour mark here in about 6 minutes. What a great way to kill an hour. I'm still hearing thunder. I'm really glad that hasn't taken us out of commission. But if there's been anyone in the chat, I apologize. I'm working on such an old sorry. I was trying to navigate to the stream. Sorry if anyone's been on chat and I haven't been there. Really sorry about that, but I appreciate it. It doesn't look like anyone has been, so that's good. I haven't disappointed anybody. No, but anyway, I've already kind of gone through the moral of this story enough. It didn't have to be. Well, it had to be dark. Operation Northwoods did not, and Operation Northwoods is a lot more fun. You know, it's less structure because it's so far at the beginning of my understanding of the creative process, and so is this too. You know, I expect for there to be a whole lot of stuff after rnttnzr, but yeah, it's just not a happy story, and I was conscious of overdoing it, and I'm not sure where I stand with that to this day, but I know I would love to, you know, get these songs in front of a band and say, hey, where should this go? And where should this fully develop? That's a hard thing about creating by yourself and giving yourself your own feedback. It actually really sucks. It feels like a circle jerk, and that's not a lot of fun. Not having anyone else's feedback to tell you what sucks is really hard. Really hard. When you're a creator and you show your work to people who would potentially be your audience, it's real easy to hear them say, oh, this is good. Because that's all you need, you know. That's all you need is a butt in a seat or whatever. But another creator who will really tell you, this doesn't work, you know. And I had someone giving a little bit of feedback during this time, during the despair code. But anyway, so I really love a lot of these songs. I feel bad that there's no, you know, vocals or anything like that. I can sing, I can scream too, but it just never, it never all came together like that. So I mean that's a shame, but for those of y'all that are still listening on my Instagram, on my SoundCloud, here on YouTube, it means a lot, and I really hope I can keep growing an audience and break in as far as, you know, performing and making music with other geniuses like me. The area that I'm in is just not really all that conducive to music. It's hard to find people, and once you do, it's kind of this momentary spark, and then you never hear from them again. So anyway, I will do a listening party for Operation Northwoods. Probably here in the next week or two, and yeah, I'm so happy to finally kind of sit down with some commentary on this project that really meant a lot to me for a couple of years, and you know, to just kind of be posting it, and then kind of what it all means, and you know, as I move into working on the third and final part, rnttnzr must die. I know this was kind of his suicide ending, but there's an alternate ending, you know, where he heals the world with comedy, you know, does the whole inside thing. So that's been the idea since 2019. It just hasn't really even come together in pre-production, to be honest, and writing it. But we'll see where all that goes. Keep watching. Thanks everybody. Thank you Liquid Biatch, particularly for some of the support and feedback that you've given, man, throughout the whole history of my channel. Because you've been around there for a while. There's a few other guys too that have been around for a hot minute, watching my original content. So really super appreciate it, y'all. I do it for me, but I do it for y'all, you know. So that's it. I don't have any closing. Those are all my closing thoughts. That's it. I'm just trying to run the clock until exactly 60 minutes. So that I can feel satisfied